to start with the first one Saturday morning, 8:15 a.m. Irish time in Oita Stadium, refereed by the late great, still alive Jerome Garces.
Jerome Garces, yes.
Jerome Garces, French referee, maker of some controversy, is going to be taking charge of England versus Australia, the Rose versus the Wallabies. This is a match that it's fair to say, has some World Cup history.
It's absolutely dripping in history.
This is World Cup. This is your World Cup game. It's one of the great World Cup fixtures. I think just to give you the highlights, 6 previous meetings, 3 wins each. Australia beat England in their hosting World Cup final in 1991. England repaid the favour and beat Australia in the World Cup final in Sydney in 2003.
Awesome.
England, having fallen off a cliff after 2003 and going into the 2007 World Cup with less than no form, getting hammered 36-0 in their pool by South Africa, limped to a quarter-final stage and took on a much-fancied Wallabies side who were set to get their revenge and beat them in a shocker. And then Australia, typical of this fixture, blew them away and knocked them out of their own World Cup in their pool last time out. Only hosting side ever to be knocked out in the pool. The Wallabies, of course, did that to England. It is just dripping full of
history and colour.
History and colour.
Cheika v Jones.
Surprise wins. Who knows what's going to happen in this one. But the fans on colour will be awesome. The Australians have the most travelling supporters in Japan. England quite loud themselves with their chariots.
White on gold pops rather nicely in the crowd.
Decent bit of history between the two nations as well.
For sure.
Quite a sporting rivalry across so many sports.
Indeed,
and as you say, Eddie Jones against Michael Cheika won't be even the least bit contentious.
No, this is it.
So we've all of that and a rugby match to be played. I mean, this is box office Rugby World Cup knockout stages stuff.
And it's a good one to have as the very first of our quarterfinals, to be honest. And I suppose in our breakdown now, we're going to just look into how both sides are going to approach this game and how it might look. We're going to start with the Wallabies, and really it's like, how are they going to have to defend this England team? Because England, we didn't get to see them probably at their full, what they would have wanted from the French game that was cancelled was to get their full team out, get a bit of momentum, try and reach the top of their form. Haven't really been tested yet at this World Cup. They had 2 Tier 2 games they coped with very well, and then blew away a 14-man Argentina. So the Wallabies will definitely be a step up for England. But how do the Wallabies stop that power game? Because England thus far this year have looked pretty damn irresistible when they get that going.
It's not even just the power game. It's that combination of the power game with the speed of the breakdown ball, with the crisp passing of both Farrell and Ford. Ford's form has become so undeniable that he's quietened all the Cipriani talk. And he's going to be probably starting at 10 with Farrell at 12, more than likely. And their crisp passing game and sharp kicking game as well. They can just move teams around. They run like quite a close to a Saracen shape these days. It's very modern, very sophisticated. Dummy runners everywhere.
Screens
usually
everywhere.
with the screen, like the 2 or 3 screen pods going in the middle of it. Just giving the distributors an option between a really class big carrier or a really speedy wide option. And it's very, very simple, but they always have those options. And usually, especially if it's Farrell making the calls, they make the right one, and it becomes just an absolute nightmare to defend against. If you're thinking, geez, they're going to flick it out the back here, and they have numbers on us, they're going to go wide, it's going to be a Johnny May try, I better drift off. And oh no, it's gone short to Manu Tuolagi, who's now running at my inside shoulder because I drifted off him. And now I'm on the floor looking like an idiot.
Indeed.
And he's in for a try.
It happens
England's
a lot.
offense is great. It's really sharp and really well done, and from a defensive point of view for the Wallabies, a really, really tough challenge. I think stopping them at source is what Wales did in terms of how they stopped them in the Six Nations, and it's a big ask for the Wallabies.
Big ask of players like Rodda and Arnold, who've looked good so far, but have also in big games gone by when they meet elite operators.
It's literally only them. They look great in every game until they meet the Springboks or the All Blacks. The Brodie Retallick Sam Whitelock combination tends to break them. And so too does the Etzebeth Mostert or whoever. The blocks that face
Cruz Itoji is pretty awesome too, you know, like those English locks are no mugs at all. They're and this phenomenal. Is a huge task. And then even closer to source you have Sinclair and Seo. awesome battle as well in the tight.
Phenomenal battle.
Scrum time. What's going to happen?
Scrum time is for me almost the most interesting aspect of this game. Now, there's a high degree of chance that the scrum doesn't become a determining factor in the game. But what it is just a complete curiosity, because both of these sides they're two of the form scrums in the world. They're also two of the most aggressive scrums in the world.
Yeah.
Both sides are trying to bully each other. Scotty CO is tearing everybody a new one at scrum time these days. Not to mention Alatoa at the tight heads no mug. And Tanya Latupo, if they select him over Kepu, which they should, he comes on. He's an absolute unit as well. So I mean, the Wallaby scrum is just not to be trifled.
It's one of the most improved, probably the most improved in the top tier of scrummaging.
Because Scott CO has become one of the best, if not the best, loose-headed scrummager out there. But he's up against Kyle Sinclair, who is also just a complete bull in the scrum, who's super dynamic. And both of them, they never scrum for parity. They try to kill each other. Yeah. And it's got it's got a really curious look to it, because if somebody gets on top, if somebody gets on the right side of the referee, or if somebody starts mushing somebody, it'll be a completely new feeling for the guy who's on the receiving end of it. Yeah. And that could be determinative if someone gets on top.
Definitely. Well, if CO's to get on top of Sinclair, I expect a Sinclair yellow card down the line if he's getting bullied at scrum time. But likewise,
if Sinclair gets on top of CO and then he starts chatting to him, and all of a sudden the Wallabies are floundering.
Yeah, because the Wallabies are guilty of letting the ref get to them as well, and this is definitely an area where they can. But then in that pack as well, the back row battle is awesome. And if you want to stop England at source in terms of the Wallabies' defence, then Pocock and Hooper are going to have a massive game at slowing them down. First, you do need your locks hitting them properly and stopping that momentum. Yeah. But you need someone in there to slow it up and ideally steal it, because the Wallabies will look to move it off turnover ball. They always look to find the space, find the tries, but you need to be turning over that ball. And to be honest, Hooper's had an absolutely wonderful World Cup so far. Pocock hasn't quite got up to the pace and level that he's been at.
He hasn't at all. I mean, if you want to judge him by Pocock standards,
this is the point.
He hasn't been there at all.
He's still being an elite operator by the standards that's right now. Yeah. But we're talking Pocock standards, and that's what it's going to take, because Curry and Underhill may be more new on the scene than Pocock, but they are elite back row operators. And then Billy Vunipola as well, should he be fit enough to start, is an awesome operator as well. It's a big ask for those Wallabies.
So it's got to be tackles, it's got to be disruption of the ball and the contact. They need every wily play in the book to stop what is a very sharp England offence. Yeah. But they have a sharp offence of their own. When they get the ball, they can do damage. Yeah. They have Beale and O'Connor as classy distributors, and they have Karevi and Corabetti in the wide channels as monster strike runners who can get through holes and finish scores if they're put into space. Karevi sometimes doesn't even need the space. He just needs a man
smash
to
over.
Smash.
He'll be targeting inside of that Tuolagi channel.
Should stay away from
should at one point those two collide, that'll be one of the more forceful collisions of the World Cup.
We don't need an earthquake, because that could trigger a tsunami.
Yes,
and we could have a whole other weather issue.
It's true.
So maybe they should just stay away from each other.
Run it forward. Karevi is absolutely one of the form centres going into the World Cup. He's been lighting it up and has kindled a very lovely balanced combination with James O'Connor, who O'Connor is precisely what they were missing for so many years.
Yes,
an outside, a 13 in other words, a guy who can challenge the outside with his footwork, with his pace, but also link with the outside with his distribution. And it takes a little bit of that pressure off Curtly Beale, who was providing pretty much the sole provider of that, which led to them being a bit too deep overall, a bit too tame. But when with all of those guys firing, their offense can be lethal.
That said, how England defend is pretty serious. Yeah. I mean, I know the Wallabies stand deep, but I'm curious to see if they can stand deep enough to get outside this English blitz. Yeah. England tend not to commit at the breakdown on D. They fan out, they come up into your face, and if the Wallabies are thinking about going wide, chances are they get caught at 12, especially with, and not to be too harsh here, but with a passenger at 10, no matter who they select, let's be honest. They probably have the weakest 10 of anyone left in the 8, whoever they select.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So, but they have other distributors. They have avenues for success in the attack, but like the ball tends to get out a little slower than it should, which is why I think actually the key distribution player for the Wallaby attack is actually Will Genia.
It is,
because that actually is what you need to do to England to discipline their defence a little bit. They're just going to come flying out. Wait till you see if Australia go wide off the first two phases. They're going to come up at an unbelievable speed. Yeah. Like if they're trying to do one of those little forward pod, whip it back to 10s, I suspect it'll be like Michael Hooper catches it, gets smashed. Yeah. It's not going farther. Like England especially at the start of games, come flying out of the blocks.
Yeah.
So actually what you need to do is test them around the fringes.
Yeah.
Little Genia probing runs, little Genia
Karevi off Genia.
Come
slightly narrower.
Long flat passes, short balls, mix it up around the fringes and keep them honest and keep them in there, and then you can go wide. Classic earn the right to go wide stuff, but it's super important to slow down that English defence, and that's why I wouldn't recommend picking Nick White now.
Yeah,
I would recommend
too slow.
Yeah.
For a Wallabies offence which needs to purr and needs to really move that English pack around if they're to have their way with them.
Not to mention Genia's kicking exit game has been outstanding.
Yeah, some of the best box kicks of the tournament come from Genia.
Deep touch finders from base of the ruck, and that's perfect. Get out of there. And let's not be doing contestables, because at the end of the day you're Australian. You kicked Israel Folau out of your team, so
that's true. That's a point we didn't talk on defence. Kurtley Beale has been awesome going forward, but there are question marks about his fielding of the high ball and managing of the backfield. England kick a lot of ball, and they kick it very, very well. They have Elliot Daly's left boot out wide in the back line. They have, if they go with Ford Farrell, 2 excellent right pegs close to the breakdown as well as competent box kicking exits from either of their scrum halves. So yeah, they have many avenues for success, and it's actually the area of Johnny May's game that he's improved most this year is under the high ball too. So it would be tough for the Wallabies challenging them there, but they definitely need to get on the other side of the ball. They need to be minding that backfield cautiously. But yeah, in terms of offense
for England, they just need to move the ball. They need to move the ball slickly. I think the key to breaking the Wallabies down is just to get those hard runners getting over the gain line. Once you do that and resource the breakdown well, because the Wallabies' best defensive weapon is their poach game. If England can resource the breakdown well and just on the short options make a bit of yards, have some of their forwards, the likes of Cruz, the likes of Itoje, the likes of Billy V, put a little bit of footwork on the ball, maybe get an offload game going, and then if they can generate that really quick ball that they like, they become just an irresistible, very difficult to stop side, and the Wallaby defence won't be able to stand up to it.
It's been patchy at times throughout this whole 4-year cycle, and they've shown signs of that in this World Cup as well. Like there are tries to be scored against the Wallabies. They score a fair few themselves, and that's why they're normally competitive in any game for the most part. But England, we want to just get that steam. We want to get established on as much as we want, or the Aussies will want Rodda and Coleman to step up a few levels to compete with those lads. England will be hoping for the opposite, that they can assert dominance in that pack and in that tight five and just get around the corner really quickly and generate that quick ball, play Billy Vunipola into the game by getting him over the gain line and getting his hands free, and then Tuilagi crashing in between those two centres will open up space everywhere for the likes of Farrell to pick.
For England, on the other side of the ball as well, it's just about getting in their faces, winning those contacts and breaking the Wallabies a little bit, like the Boks do. Only without the loss of focus that lets them back into the game, which can happen to England as well.
It can.
So they have
That's a question mark about England. Like the Wallabies showed that great comeback spirit against Wales, having gone behind. Great second half from them. England have been a better first half side than a second half side.
Not to mention they're a European team in Oita,
which is another intangible
sweatbox.
Oita, obviously closed roof stadium. Humidity's probably going to be a bit high. It's going to be muggy, and the Wallabies are definitely better conditioned to cope with that than the English. We haven't actually. With all of the kind of the Northern Hemisphere nations, certainly particularly the kind of Ireland and Britain and Ireland kind of nations, we've seen all of them struggle with the conditions at times. We saw Wales for that period against the Wallabies actually go a bit absent and look really fatigued. England haven't really been tested.
Tonga, I thought they looked really ropey, just handling wise. They slowed down. They slowed right down. That was in the sweatbox. Might have been in the same place. Again, in the Tonga game, the opening game, they definitely looked to be struggling with them a bit, and they want to be in a sharper place.
We saw obviously with Scotland, we saw it against Ireland. With Ireland, we saw it against Japan. It's been a factor for these teams that the conditions really aren't what they're used to. It's different from a Six Nations game, and as such, the pictures are different. So that's definitely an intangible that the Wallabies have.
From the defence point of view, it's about getting in their faces, it's about smashing them. They got to be mindful of a couple of things. The Aussie maul has actually been really great.
This is true.
I'm curious to see if Itoje is one of the great playmakers of the game, as well as just being a workhorse. He combines those two greatly. One of the great plays he has in him is the shutting down of the maul.
And so too is Cruz. Actually, that's one of the strongest areas of Cruz game, and I think it's one of the reasons he's in there in that team is he is great at spoiling mauls. The Sarries boys are in general are great at stuffing that set piece, where the Brumbies and then Wallabies have been using that set piece as a go-to to find tries.
So shutting down that maul is huge, and you shouldn't need to tell them after 4 years ago, but you got to keep an eye out for that inside ball.
This is it. They'll be looking for it.
Do love to throw the blind wingers down the blind channels.
If
in
you
England.
see Corabet slicing through.
Curry and Underhill need to be marking that space.
Absolutely.
No chance of getting Curabetty. If Curabetty gets through on an inside ball, you haven't done your homework.
Well, alternatively, if he's in on an inside ball and it's Sinclair covering that space where it should be Curry or Underhill, that'll be a kind of a structures thing that we saw it with Georgia. They got it wrong where it was front row forwards protecting that space and it was exploited. You'd hope
everybody.
You'd hope that England don't do the same and that they actually have their two very formidable sevens, great groundhogs and tacklers. They need to be minding that and watching them all day because the Wallabies do have a lot of distributors. Obviously, it's not that their main distributor isn't through 10 purely because their elite operators aren't in the 10 jersey, but what they do have is really 3 other distributors in that backline in Genia, Beale and O'Connor. So couple that with a decent 10 and suddenly you have 4 distributing options and you will move the point of contact.
And they absolutely will do that. They'll look to get an offloading game going. They'll look to drive up the pace themselves, exposing them a little bit in the wide channels. But England's power game and their really smart kicking game and sharp offense could prove too much for the Wallabies, and that's certainly what I think.
It's definitely where I do have England as slight favourites. For other reasons, things like history as well. You were saying rightly that the last thing that happened in World Cup history is that Australia dumped them unceremoniously out of their home World Cup. It would be in keeping with that historical record for England to come back and get one over on them.
I think so because it's kind of similar to 2007, isn't it? When the Wallabies had been beaten by England in their own World Cup in a final this time as opposed to a pool, but still in the final, and then England played the Wallabies in that one, and it was like Wallabies were the much better side, and everyone was like, the Wallabies are going to get one over on them this time after last one's horror show, and then England inexplicably won again. And there's that history too. This is a mad fixture. Using history to call this is crazy.
It is crazy.
To
be honest. What I'm looking at is that on balance, I think England are the stronger of the teams, the better of the teams. That is the
compelling factor for me is that England might just be a better rugby team.
But that may not matter.
Penalties are important too. We didn't touch on penalties. England need to keep their heads. That's the one thing that stands between England and glory. Really, is their heads. They need to keep them screwed on.
They need to also demonstrate a capacity to wrestle momentum back, which is something that it's been a consistent niggle for this Eddie Jones England side, is that they can blitz teams for 20 minutes and go into a near insurmountable lead and then completely switch off and not be able to adjust on the fly and get themselves back into it. And the Wallabies, by contrast, have shown a capacity to leak loads of tries but then get a streaky run going of 10 minutes
the
where they
Wallabies
grab tries.
are a momentum side as well, so if the Wallabies get the momentum, a little like Scotland in the Calcutta Cup, it could just keep happening. England will need to be a little tougher than that. They're just a little smarter than that in terms of when the game's getting away from you. They need to identify when the moment isn't with them and stop trying to force it. Then just kick deep and play territory and have things settle down until they can wrestle some momentum back. But so those are learnings that you would hope that they've picked up. But they are a big, strong, accurate, well-coached, talented, quick, Owen Farrell, Johnny Mayfield.
Wonderful team
that I think will win.
I suspect you're right there, but do feel free to disagree with us in the comments below if you're a Wallaby fan.
Yes.
But it's going to be a great contest anyway.
What do you
as
think,
always.
Joe?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's too busy thinking about the All Blacks.
This is it. He's going. Thank you very much for tuning into the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you're new here, please click subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified of all our new videos. And leave a comment as well, because we love the chat and conversation. Thanks.